I haven't looked through this in any particular detail. So is it out today? Is there a new one out today? Oh no, it was out yesterday. Oh, there's a guy. But there's a guy mowing his lawn outside, so you might hear a little bit of background noise. But hopefully the microphone will. Do you hear any humming? It's that.
Who better to do that with us than Josh from the studio?
I have met Josh. He is the captain of Team England, and he is one of, and he absolutely reconstructed my asshole with Custodes.
Yeah, Josh, how you doing?
Yeah, really good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. So, the chapter-approved Pariah Nexus new mission deck has arrived. We've got it here in front of us.
Yes, we have.
Chat to us a little bit about this.
Yeah, so I mean, for us, it's really exciting. It's like the new season of 40k, so people will get to play brand new missions. So some of the favourites that they've enjoyed in the previous pack are still there, but there's some brand new ones there to enjoy. And we've made some subtle changes in some places and then some bigger changes in others to try and improve the gaming experience for all those players.
Nice. So let's start. We'll chat with.
So first thing I just want to say, and I don't know maybe if this is me a little bit behind the curve. It's interesting that they use the term seasons because it's something that the community has thrown around for like ever. Like GW has seasons and stuff, but this is like the first time where I think I've heard, first time that I feel like I've heard someone from GW say, "Oh yeah, it's the new season of 40k." I don't know. That's like acknowledgement of it. I think it's interesting.
A little bit about some of those big changes that you've made. Talk to us about
Yeah,
those.
so I think one of the first ones for context is how actions work, because I think that they are used in a number of the different missions. So one of the things we've done in this pack is clearly defined what an action is and how it works, whereas in the last pack there was less of a definition about what units could and couldn't do actions. So one of the big things we've done here is made it very clear what type of units can do actions and what state they can be in within the game. So you can't be battle shocked and do an action. If you are OC0, you can't do actions, which is quite a big change because OC0 units could do actions.
RIP Cyclops, but also RIP Spellbind. But also
is in
Cyclops is dead. Long live the Commissar.
In the last version of the pack, if you had an assault weapon which let you advance and shoot, you could do an action. And if you had pistols, which lets you shoot in combat, you could do actions in combat. That's both been removed. So
oh, that's huge. Okay, so RIP Firestorm attachment, frankly. The new Renegade Raiders attachment. RIP Tyranid Termagants. I actually don't know if I agree with that change. Honestly, I don't think I actually think that's a step too far. I think units that have the ability to assault, they should be able to move and do objectives. Controversial opinion. The one about doing it in combat, I'm also okay with like the pistol thing, because it kind of goes to show like the people who are like who can do like actions in like combat. Like how I like to imagine it is, you know, the guys around them are like holding the forces back, whilst you know the guys like, you know, imagine like a unit of like, you know, imagine guys like pistols and chainswords like holding back the tide, whilst you know, surrounding one of their comrades while he's like sort of set the teleporter Homer, and they're like, "Set it, do it now, do it." He's like beep 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 beep. You know, he's trying his best to get. Yeah, I think that's cool. And likewise, I think, you know, units that have assault weapons, the idea is like they're fast, they're agile, they can move. They, you know, these aren't. They are more fast and more agile. They are less slow, less lumbering. The whole point of assault weapons is to get up the board. And so I feel the idea of being able to, like, you know, advance up the board quickly and do an action, that was a that was a fundamental bonus. And considering like how much they have restricted assault weapons, like flamers aren't assault anymore, grenade launchers aren't assault anymore. Like, I feel like how much they've restricted assault weapons, and so I feel like they are special, and I feel like they should be able to do it. So I don't agree with the pistol change, and I don't agree with the assault change, but fuck it, it's here now, and we're gonna have to roll with it.
Can you advance and do actions as standard with an assault weapon, and no longer can you do actions in combat just because you have pistols. So that's a big change, and that will affect a lot of people's lists.
It will.
And then one of the other things we've changed as well is to try and help out some of the big Titanic characters, things like Imperial Knights or Chaos Knights. If you are a Titanic character, you can still do an action and shoot. You can't fight, you can't charge, so that hasn't changed, but they can be performing an action and then still blaze away with their big weaponry. So that's a big buff for them, because they can actually, one of the problems they did have was to do an action, there may be a 400-piece unit in your army, and you didn't want to be using a 400-piece unit just to do an action, then they can't do anything else in the game. This now gives them a bit more flexibility with that.
What? I'm sorry. Okay. What? Let us name the list of Titanic characters that have got meaningful shooting. Magnus. No, that's about it. Angron? No. Mortarion? Nah, his shooting is absolute dog shit. Magnus? Raptor, it's Titanic characters. So it's not any old knight. What, Canis Rex? So we've got Magnus and Canis Rex. So what you're telling me is the best Titan for the Imperium and the best Demon Primarch for Chaos. But Angron's good, but I think Magnus is probably better. It's like they just got better. You took the characters that were already, you took the things that were already better and made them better. Hang on, people are saying Knights though, all Knights count as characters. Okay, that makes a lot more sense. I'm still not happy about it though. Because how come Knights can do it but a Baneblade can't? So you're telling me that an Imperial Knight can do an action? It's like, oh, well, we don't want you to waste your 400-point unit. It's like, okay, what about my Baneblade? That's a 400-point unit. It's not a character. You know? We'll have to wait for the full thing to come out. But I do think it's kind of bullshit, like how Knights can do it, but Guard can't. Like, why my 400-point unit has to basically stick its thumb up its ass and pull itself off and have no other hands free to do actions, but apparently Knights can do all three. 104, but Guard have smaller units, Knights don't. I mean, that's true, but but Knights have smaller units. Knights have got War Dogs, 140 points. What's the difference between taking a 140-point Knight out of the equation and a 130-point Deathcore Krieg platoon? I'm still not a huge fan of it, because I think it punishes things like it buffs Magnus over Angron, and it buffs Knights over other super heavies.
How they can play.
Nice. And what about deployments as well?
Yeah, so deployments. So
it means like it's
the favorites.
It's not equals pequals. It's not equal treatment across the board. It's one rule for one rule for another, which A, creates a sense of unfairness, and B, importantly, it's another thing to remember. Like for a new player, well, my Knight can do this action because it's Titanic. Oh, well, can my Baneblade do it? It's Titanic. Oh no. But why? I'm Titanic. But you're not a Titanic character. But I'm Titanic. But you're not a Titanic character. See what I mean? It's like another. It's bloat. It's a small thing, but it's another nuance, which I think is going to cause. People are going to make mistakes over it.
From the last pack have stayed, but what we've tried to do with a number of them, there's a few new deployments, and what we've tried to do with them is make them easier to set up and start playing straight away. So we know that some of the diagonal line deployments are slightly harder to measure, and players, when they're deploying on armies, they're like, okay, I have to cut that goes through the terrain. How do we make a clean line for that? Have I deployed too far forward or not far enough? So a number of the new deployments follow a similar principle in that they might be across the board in a certain direction, but they're now what we would call a stepped deployment. So within a certain quarter, your deployment zone is a certain box size, and then we give you all the measurements for that, and then it might be in a different quarter, it's a different shaped box. So now you can clearly mark out your deployments, and they're normally all straight lines. There's only one mission that's still diagonal because it was one of the favourites from the last pack. So we
kept it in there.
Yeah. If we know if players like it, and it was one of the favourites deployments from the last pack, changing it just to change it seems the wrong move.
Yeah. There's some new primary and secondary missions as well.
That's interesting. There's some good here. There's some bad here. The good, they acknowledge that it's taking too long for players to get set up and just start playing the game. They've clearly seen the feedback from like Old World, where you just throw your models down and start playing, and it's a piece of piss. Their solution to this is to mess with the deployment zones. So the idea is that basically your deployment zone is going to span across 2 table quarters, as it is now, because you have a board edge. And their solution is to essentially give you 2 deployment zones. So I think GW have identified the problem. I am somewhat skeptical that this is the solution. I don't think diagonal deployment zones were really... And see, here's interesting. They're like, well, some of the diagonal deployment zones were quite hard to set up. But yet, one of the diagonal deployment zones is one of the community's favourite. So my thinking here is, it's not the diagonal deployment zones that are the problem. You've identified the problem. You've come up with the wrong solution. That's my guess. Now, we'll have to see what the new deployment zones are like, of course. But I don't think deployment zones are the big issue. We'll see. We'll see. And whether this fixes the problem or not, credit where credit is due. New deployment zones are a really, really big way of making the game feel fresh and exciting. So regardless of whether this fixes the problem or not, it is new and it is going to keep the game fresh. So there's a lot of nuance here. There's some good, there's some bad, but it's not me shitting on GW completely. And I do want to say I think they've done a good job of identifying the problem, and we'll have to see if they can fix it in the future. I actually have to say I am surprised that I don't think the diagonal deployment zones were a big issue. They were super easy to come up with. It's like, okay, we go to the halfway point and measure to this corner, or you measure from this corner to this corner. I've played a lot more difficult deployment zones from Games Workshop. Who remembers Pointy Dawn of War? Who remembers Pointy Hammer and Anvil? They were more tricky to set up because like the point goes to here, then it comes back to here, then it comes down to here. They were more difficult to set up, right? The diagonal deployment zones in 10th edition are the easiest weird deployment zones GW's done. But yeah, I don't know. The Buffalo, they said they're keeping the halfway to corner diagonal deployment. Yeah, so they've got rid of one of them, but they've kept the other one.
Primary missions, there's some of the favourites have stayed, but even ones that were popular last, what we've tried to do is, if we could make them clearer or remove any ambiguity, we've done that. And also some of the missions, for example, like the Relic, which stays, we've changed the range of where objectives can be placed, so you can't quite stack all the objectives in your deployment zone, which was possible in the current pack.
Okay, that's actually cool. That's cool. So they basically got rid of servo skulls, which I actually forgot existed, which is why I was like, what do you mean you can start the objective deployment zone? Servo skulls. And they seem to have got heavily reorganized the ritual, which is interesting.
But then we've also brought out some new missions in there which will encourage new styles of play. So players can now, hopefully when they look at the new pack, it'll be fresh eyes to then look at how their army interacts with those missions and go, actually, I need to take some of these units to interact better with those missions. And then we've worked on some of the missions, so like Sites of Power in the last pack was a very fun mission, but because it was tied to characters, it felt limiting to some armies that didn't rely heavily on characters and favoured armies that did. So we have a similar mission in the new pack, which functions quite similarly, but it's not based just around characters. So now more armies should be able to play the mission and it feel it's
Boo!
Okay. So secret mission.
I like the fact that it favoured pure infantry guard. I see no problem with that. Now, all of those, I have to say, all of those issues regarding primary missions, I think they're on the ball. Absolutely on the nail there. Hit the head on the nail. Hit the nail on the head there. And I think that's a really big advantage of having someone like Josh on the balance team. Because he is someone that actually plays these missions and doesn't just play them in the GW studio against studio armies, he plays them on competitive tables against competitive armies. And so where those imbalances, you know, really are accentuated.
In that, so the gambits, what we were trying to achieve with the gambits in the last pack was to give players, even if they're losing the game, they have a fighting chance of, okay, the primary mission's not going well for me. How do I claw myself back into this game? And that was the principle of gambits. And what happened was they were probably a little bit too, because it was a random selection of which one you got, you were sort of left to the cards to see, did I get a mission that can actually score? And then there were a number of them were quite hard to actually complete, which meant that a lot of players felt a gambit wasn't worth the risk. I'll just stick with the primary mission, and then hopefully find a way to sneak back in the game playing standardly. Whereas now what we've tried to do with the secret missions is, to be able to select a secret mission, you still have to be have less primary points than your opponent. So somebody who's winning the game can't just switch to a secret mission. They're still on plan A. They're going for it as normal. But somebody who's behind on the score at the end of turn 3 can decide, actually, I'm going to switch from the primary mission and I'm going to go towards a secret mission. And these secret missions, the big change is now you can pick one. You don't have to randomize it. So you can pick one that suits your army. Again, so players now have the opportunity to build their army to favor certain secondary, those missions, the secret missions. So if they are in that losing position, they have a good fallback option. And then the opponent doesn't know which one you've picked, so that you only reveal it at the end of the game. Of course, but because there's 4 as an opponent, depending on what your opponent's army design is like, or if they start to, so for example, one of the missions is you have to hold 3 at the end of the game. You need to be holding 3 objectives not in your deployment zone. So as your opponent, if you realize they're all trying to spread out on multiple objectives, you probably have a good idea which secret mission. Another one is you need to have your warlord on your opponent's deployment zone objective and controlling it. Well, if their warlord is making a beeline for your home objective, you probably know which secret mission they're going for. So there's counterplay for both sides, but the idea is that the secret missions should be more viable as an option if you are behind in the game, to keep the games close right to the end. You are capped slightly in that if you're playing the missions, the normal primary score is 50 points, is the total score you could potentially score. Whereas if you decide to go to a secret mission, all the secret missions are worth 20 points, but you are capped at only being allowed to score 20 points from the primary missions on the card. So you are capped at a 40-point score rather than 50. So your opponent does have that 10-point advantage. If they can score 50, there's no way you can bridge that 10-point gap. But if you can start to reduce their scores, and then you have a decent chance with the secondary and also the secret missions, you might be able to pip them at the end and keep it a really tight, close game.
Nice. And you've also...
That's shit. I said this before with the secret missions. Great for narrative play, great for fluffy play, great for you and your mates playing. Absolutely unusable in tournaments because people will just cheat. And I'm sorry that I have a lower opinion, but people will just cheat. And you'll have people who will say they're going to go for a secret mission, and you'll have people that will essentially pick, they'll go for one, and then they'll realize they can't get that one, and then at the end, maybe their opponent nips to the toilet for a wee or something, and they'll just swap the card out, and they'll go, oh look, this is the one I had all along. It was just great misdirection on my part, and it's like, nah. Yeah, no, I will be very, very, very surprised if secret missions will be allowed in any serious tournament, and I will be I will be not surprised in any way, shape, or form if we get stories of people accusing each other of fiddling the secret mission, or people actually fiddling the secret mission. Blah blah blah. If it's card based, just hold your opponent's card. See, this is the problem, right? I pick my secret mission, I give it to my opponent, and then I need to go to the toilet. The temptation for my opponent to go, oh, that's what he's trying to do, and put the card back down is overwhelming. It's not just cheating for the people cheating with the secret mission. It's people like spying on the secret mission and figuring it out. It's too much temptation when people do stupid shit at tournaments. You see it all the time. It's just not good. It's not a good mechanic for the game, 100%. And like I said, I should have more faith. But as someone who's been going to tournaments for over a decade, you don't see it as much now. But at the beginning of the edition, we had someone literally bring weighted dice. So it might be less of an issue, but it's still an issue. This kind of mechanic is only going to encourage problems to occur. I do not like secret missions. I think and we've seen this by the way before, that GW used to have secret missions for secondaries and stuff. and tournaments instantly went, no clandestine mission for Dark Angels, no secret secondaries for GSC. You just don't get to use that shit because it's too open to abuse. Yeah, you could get a TO to look after the card. What are you going to do when you're running a super major with 200, 300 players at it? It's just impractical. It's impractical. It's open to abuse from both sides, and it will just create negative game experiences. It's purely for fluffy for now to play for you playing at home with your mates. It's just that simple.
Reworked some mission rules as well, right?
Yes. So one of the things we are keen to, without pushing the game too far to one extreme, is we want to reward players for taking battle line units. They're supposed to be the mainstay of an army. So a lot of the mission rules are focused around giving battle line units a buff or extra abilities, which gives them more value compared to non-battle line units. So I think the big point for a lot of players is Chilling Reign as a mission rule's gone, which was one where there was no mission rule that was quite popular to be used. We want to encourage players to have a mission rule in play. But what we have been mindful of is to make sure that the mission play rules that we have are nice buffs without completely throwing the dynamic of the game. So this is where this battle line focuses come from. That sort of ties in nicely in that a number of the different cards will give you different benefits. So they don't all stack at the same time. So battle line units don't become godlike and they get every ability.
Yeah.
Different missions will benefit them in different ways, but a number of those might be one of the cards lets battle line units advance into actions, so we've taken that away from units with assault weaponry, but battle line units will get that now in that mission as standard. So all battle line units will be able to advance and do actions. There's an
no way! Oh my god! Oh, whatever this balance team's been smoking, I want it, man. I want it. That is mad. For one of the missions, one of the mission rules, all battle line units will be able to advance and do actions. Oh, it's madness, I say. Madness. Catachan meta, Blood Buffalo, you're absolutely right. Catachan meta incoming. Doesn't it, if you're in a transport, if the transport advances, you count as advancing, don't you? So I feel like that's true, because if the transport falls back, you count as falling back. Now, what I find interesting about this, I feel there's a little bit of a double speak. Because on the one hand, GW has said, well, you know that site's a power mission. We acknowledge that not every army relies on characters. It's like, okay, fair enough. So we're going to make this mission rule that really, really favors battle line. It's like, but GW, not every army relies upon its battle line units. No, can't hear you. It's like, well, wait, what? Are we favoring certain armies, or are we not favoring certain armies? I'm just saying, man. Just saying.
Another card,
little bit of double speak.
Battle line units do actions in combat, which again is where the pistol used to give you that for units that had pistols. Now we've put that on potentially battle line units. They can also, in the same card,
battle line not selling well enough,
shoot and do an action. So again, battle line units are getting dual purpose. They can still participate in the game while doing an action. There's also other cards which let you bring on some of your battle line units turn 1 from reserves, which normally most units can't come on the board turn 1 from reserves. If you're in reserve, you have to be a turn 2 onwards. Okay. So we've done a number of cards to try and buff those battle line units. There's also one card which specifically lets them put up raised banners on objectives, which lets them score more secondary points, which helps you score more points in the game. So a number of different tweaks without being huge, massive buffs, but nice incremental buffs to battle line units to encourage players to take a few more missions.
So before we finish up, what's next for the studio? What have you got?
Holy shit, battle line spam incoming. Battle line spam incoming, man. And you know who's got the best battle line in the entire game? God. Do you guys remember when I did my video, when it was like, the big mistake that I see people taking, it's like they're not taking enough battle line, they're not taking enough objective control, and this is like a huge advantage that Guard is leveraging at the moment. And one of the great points that came back from that was, Mordian, you are right that a lot of armies aren't doing this, but you've missed, and I did miss this. I hold my hand up, I did miss this. Like, a lot of armies don't have good, efficient battle line. Like, Guard is in the reason why you're seeing it do stuff in Guard, but other armies not doing it, is because other armies don't have good battle line. And that's a good point. It's a very good point. But now those people are gonna have to take battle line. You're gonna have to take battle line. Oh, do you know what's going through my mind, boys? Scions. a 15-man Giga Blob of Scions, deep striking down, and still being able to shoot after deploying a teleporter homer. That's pretty spicy. Also, what's coming through my mind is 2 or 3 units of Scions in deep strike, turn 1, the battle line, turn 1 deep strike, coming from reserves. Turn 1, Giga Blob Scion deep strike. We will darken the sky with our grav shoots. I mean, you probably won't want to do it turn 1 all the time because you want for them to move on to the objective, but home objective. Blood Buffalo, Scions are on battle line though. Yes, they are. If you take a Scion command squad as your warlord, your Scions become battle line and you can take up to 6 squads of them. There we go. GH, if we go second, we can reinforce T1. Oh yeah, baby. Oh yeah. Yeah, let's
Sights set on next.
So for us, this mission deck is a big part of the new season of 40k.
One last pretzel
to go alongside that, what we've decided to do is we have brought forward the summer data slate and the summer MFM, which is the points changes. They would normally have come in sort of July time, but to align with this release, we've actually felt, because it's the new season, we want to bring them all together so players will have the chance to play new missions. They will also get the new changes for the points, because some of those points will reflect, like we discussed in the pack, OC0 units can't do actions anymore. They will probably have gone down slightly in points to reflect they've lost some utility.
5 points,
Cyclops benefit from this new mission pack, so they may gain some points, but also generally for the balance of the game, as we normally talk about in Metawatch, we'd be looking at points and how armies are performing on the tabletop, and helping some of those that need a little bit of help, and tweaking some of those that maybe are performing a little bit too highly. With the balanced data slate as well, as we've discussed before, that lets us do some rules changes. So a big one for us is we've been working hard on some AdMech changes, which we've discussed in the previous Metawatch. So they're going to get some significant rules changes. Cool. So that will hopefully change how they play on the tabletop and give players a brand new lease of life for those players who have really been excited to play AdMech but have felt that they haven't quite been able to play them the way they want to. So that's really exciting for us. So for us, this is really the new season of 40k. There's new points, there's new missions, there's new cards, and then there's also any tweaked rules that we've wanted to make all coming together. And in addition to that, one of the things that we know a lot of players have been asking for is, can the studio do an official FAQ to answer those questions that players are unsure about within the game? How do we resolve these issues? So we've also been working hard on having an FAQ that we can publish, which will cover the core rules and every army we do, so players can find the answers to those questions that they're not quite sure how do we resolve. And then a big part of that FAQ is it's not just a one and done process. We're answering a lot of questions now, and we will publish a large FAQ and faction FAQs, but then we will encourage players to send in more questions that they have, and we will be keeping an eye on those through the FAQ inbox, and then we can, we'll be hopefully talking about some of those answers when we get some interesting questions on the Metawatches going forward, but also we will be keeping that document up to date, so as players get questions, we can answer them so that they can just enjoy their experience playing rather than wondering how to resolve a rules query they're not quite sure.
Exciting stuff.
Good. Right, cool. I would say, what's that? Is that going to be 2 lots of point changes in 1 month? Because I feel like the last lot of point changes only came in a month ago. That's not ideal. Would have been nice. Yeah. I'd be pretty miffed if, like, all of the point changes that Guard just got change around and then we get a bunch of shit. But, yeah, we'll see. Overall, I think for every point in this Metawatch to be excited about, overall, I think there's probably a point to be a little worried about. Like, ooh. Oh dear. Oh no. 145 point Vanquisher. You were good while you lasted, man. 50 point Scions. Good while we lasted, man. Yeah. I'm bracing for it. I'm ready for a unit of Guardsmen to cost more than a unit of Space Marines. That's where I am right now. Welcome back. That is mental. Yeah, so many point changes back to back is pretty mental, yeah. Sam the Great. My usual 40k games are long, and if I win, I want to win properly. Fair enough. Fair enough. Total 1-0 Alpha. Elysian meta, baby! Yeah. Elysian meta, baby. I don't think they'll make Guard unplayable. I think we'll probably see some battle line points go up. If I was a better man, I think we'll see battle line points go up. I hope tanks have come down. Like, the last points update for the Guard was, I think, perfectly done. Honestly, I think they left infantry where it was because no one was complaining about infantry. They brought tanks down a little bit to encourage people to take tanks. They put artillery up a little bit because people were abusing it a little bit. Those people who had hybrid Guard armies were basically unaffected. Those people that were collecting tank armies got a little boost, but that you didn't see many of those. And those people that were artillery spamming, you know, basically got a little, you know, got encouraged to go a bit more hybrid. So the last points update I think was perfect, and I came away from that going, that was a perfect update. I understood all of the nerfs and I welcomed all of the buffs. My concern is that GW fucks it now. We'll see. We will see. They don't get delivered. I bet I'm still here like it. I bet they never turns up. I fucking bet. If it doesn't turn up. Oh, I heard a door. I heard a door close. I heard a door close. 1 second. It's here. Oh. Praise be. Praise be. Oh my god. I'm fucking... it's a mat... Is it hot? Is it hot? Okay, 1 second. It feels warm. It's hot enough. Ah. I don't know what anyone says. I don't care what anyone says. It's better than sex. Would you like to know more? If so, then please consider becoming a channel member or patron. By supporting the channel, not only will you be doing your part, but you'll also be helping me create more content for your viewing pleasure and unlocking a whole host of perks. You get everything from a badge next to your name, custom emojis, but the big one is access to the Mordian Glory Discord server, an online community with almost 2,500 active members. It's always popping off in the MG Discord. We've got channels for army lists, hobbying, tactics, stories, and even a pretty spicy meme section as well. For all you greenhorns that wanted to see the Mordian glory hole, today is your lucky day. And joking aside, I do want to say a massive thank you to all of the current channel members and patrons. You guys are amazing. Truly the lifeblood of the channel. I could not do Mordian Glory full-time without the incredible and generous support of my members. So thank you guys so much. And last but certainly not least, I want to say a personal thank you to all of my top tier Patreons. These are the War Masters, the people who have truly gone above and beyond the call of duty. So a heartfelt thank you to Alex Dengal, Bon Vert, Mad Larkin, Marcus Roberts, Mark Panconi, RJ Scorpion, Swordfish Trombone, Try Again Bragg, John Stubbs, Nick Wolf, Diesel Fox, and August Barney. Seriously guys, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Your support is incredible and it makes a huge difference. Thank you so much. That's all for now. Hope you've all enjoyed today's video, and of course, as always, see you guys next time.